Okay. Look, just to start, this new documentary, I haven't had the
Yeah.
pleasure of seeing it yet, but tell us how it all came to be and the range of emotions you went through having your life and career discovered or put out in this way.
Put out on display.
Yeah.
Look, it was. I met the filmmaker Fiona Cochrane on another film that she just. We lived in the neighbourhood, and she rang me up one day and said, "Would you like to do some music for this movie that I'm making?" And which is, but the interesting thing about it was called Four of a Kind. The interesting thing was they film us doing the songs. We appear in the film only playing the songs. And she picked the four songs that she wanted to do, and it was called Four of a Kind. And she chose songs that related to these four stories, which I thought was kind of quite an interesting concept, a very difficult thing to do, to make it all sort of come home. And we became friends from there, and she thought my life might be of some value as a documentary. My theory to that was if it's 60 minutes long, if it's an hour long, it's 90 minutes too long, you know. So if I just lost my gag there, but it was all head stuff, and you're just talking, and it took so long that you didn't really know how it was going to end up. And I was making Crooked Little Thoughts at the time, and so we filmed some of that situation. So she just wanted real life, and I was happy to, do that because that's real, and I'm into that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't it wasn't a stretch from my situation. The hard thing was it interesting enough? So she took some live footage, she took some studio footage, she spoke to a lot of people that apparently, I haven't seen it, said a few nice things, and probably some of them said a few ugly things. I figure it's all part of the mix. It's like a book, really, in a way, isn't it? In some ways,
Yeah.
parallel to that. I have no desire to see it. I know what I've done, and I know who I am, so I don't need to see it on the silver screen. But I kind of, I had mixed emotions about doing it. I thought, my kids, when I'm in that 6-foot bungalow, my kids might see it, and or their grandchildren might see it, and they say, "Oh, well, your great granddad was something," or something like that, and the thing that I thought was nice though was, because we migrated from Malta in 1950, so that was kind of interesting. She sort of went to great lengths to find out the links and the troubles and those times and the struggle, not so much the trouble, it's more of the struggle about migrating in the 50s. And so she apparently went through some of those things and talked to members of my family. I'm one of 10 children, so she had plenty to choose from. And they probably all had really, really bad stories to tell about me. But I thought that was kind of interesting, and what I did like is, because I'm always deconstructing while I'm writing songs, I'm trying to find another way in or some way of making it better. We're all trying to do that. I don't give up on something easily. I figure someone's given me the idea. I'm going to try to give it as much as I can to make it as good as I can. And so she caught us in the studio, working on songs, arguing with plastic swords, trying to see how songs develop just by using musicians that that walk into the studio without any knowledge of what they're going to play, and using their musicality and their struggle to find not only what to play. Good musicians can play something, but to try to play the right thing or something that will give it the atmosphere that you're looking for. So sometimes I have a clear vision about what I want. Other times I just want to be there and be in it. So I know that she was there as part of it, watching that process happen.
Now, you mentioned you haven't really sat down and watched the documentary. Does the idea of sitting down and looking at it make you feel a little uncomfortable?
Well, I just wouldn't watch it.
Yeah.
I didn't even watch the movie Four of a Kind. I find it. I'm a little bit embarrassing, to be honest with you. Not because I want to be better than what I am, and I guess we all want to do that, and I can't bear it. Can't bear the fact that I might be, the tone of my voice is not where I want. It's not how I hear it, and it's not really what's coming out, what was in my head. But you make do, or you let things go, and I find that really frustrating. And the great thing about playing music live is that you're not concentrating on that. You're concentrating purely on the emotional connection, and that mightn't be such a great thing to listen back to. And this has always bothered me. I don't have any paraphernalia. I don't have any awards or anything. I don't have that anywhere in my house. I don't have any of those things. I don't want to be around them. I don't want to say, oh, look, I've got the Hall of Fame. Oh, look, I was the best saxophone player. Look at this. I've got all these gold records, platinum records. I have no interest in those things. So this might make me pretty weird, but so I do tell that gag that, for a little while I had the Hall of Fame award in the fridge. So every time I opened it, I said, oh, well, maybe you were something. But to me, it's all about kind of how far you can go. How far can you... and it's nice to look back sometimes. And I'm sure that... it's like a photo. When you're 40 and you look at a photo when you're 20, you say, wow, you kind of look so young and so... and then you look at it, and then you look at a photo at the age that you are, and you think that you're really aging. Then you see it at 50 and say, well, I still had it at 40, but you didn't know it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, someone showed me some photos just recently. We were doing a photo session, and he showed me some photos that he took with Jojo Zep when I was about 26, and I said, wow, I never saw myself like that, because I can only see myself like when I look in the mirror now, and it's kind of, I always find it really weird to go back, I'm scared of it really more than anything else. And I shouldn't be really, I should just kind of accept what it is and embrace it, and I'm happy that I've had some music that has been part of the landscape, and I've done really some things that I felt that I got to do, that I wasn't even good enough to be there, but I happened to make it there. I was there and I did it, and had some hits that people kind of songs that resonated for whatever reasons. So I'm really happy about that, but I don't go and listen to them. And I'm always thinking, if I'm playing those songs, I'm always thinking where it is today, not where it was yesterday.
Yeah. I read on your website where you mentioned in the very early days you felt more like a music fan than a musician. Is there any
Yeah.
point where you felt that turned around for you, where the musician took over from the fan?
Uh, I got tired. I think I got tired of being a music fan, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I never thought, but I never thought that I was the musician that I thought I could be. It takes a lot of work to do that, and uh, I think I started juggling too many different things. There's a few people that can be really great musicians and great songwriters. Um, but for most of the time, people are either just great musicians, and then you've got great songwriters that are not necessarily great musicians, or vice versa. And I felt I had the ability, but I didn't do the work. So I call myself a semi-professional, without being hard on myself. I just know that I could have probably. I had to make a choice. I think putting a lot more energy in songwriting and running a band and doing all the things that relate to those things sometimes have nothing to do with the music. It just has something more to do with trying to be able to keep things together, and then occasionally you have that opportunity, a window of where something happens and something taps you on the shoulder, some kind of spacey thing, and says, well, here's a song, I don't know where it came from, but this is kind of here, have this, or do you want this? And you start again, you get the inspiration. Yeah, I know it might sound a bit weird, but I'm trying to answer that as truthfully as I can. And the weird thing is now, I think I've become more of a music fan again, because you embrace the things that you love about what got you there in the first place. There comes a time in your life, and I guess it's happening to me, whether the fact is that I've just turned, the fact that I'm in my 60s, I'm 64 now, that I'm not struggling with, can I be where I was? I've resigned the fact that where I am is where I am, and do the best with what you've got, and I'm not punishing myself as or trying to sort of be somewhere where it may never happen again. They were just times, and I would happen to write songs that suited the time. Whereas now I'm sort of just writing. I keep thinking that I'm writing popular songs, but I'm just writing songs that I want to, that come to me, and that and I'm doing it because I want to do it, and I'm doing it because I can't stop doing it. So I'm enjoying listening to music. It was a long way to come round. Yes, I am a music fan.
As a musician, I guess the instrument most people associate you with is the saxophone. When did the love
Yeah.
affair with the saxophone begin?
Well, I think when I first heard pretty much jazz music, which I didn't even know it was called jazz music, well, kind of avant-garde. When I heard Eric Dolphy play, I thought that was the wildest, and it was the wild, it was incredibly unbridled, but, and I thought I thought anybody could be able to play that, but it was, and then when I got to buy one and then realise that this takes 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day, and that's why these people are that good. I just loved it, and I just used it as just something that I could do a little bit, And then just the more I played with different bands, the more interested I became in it. And I have a jazz label. I don't play jazz music. I play kind of R&B pop music. That saxophone, in the 70s, saxophone was the 12 bars you got in the solo. It took over from the guitar solo, and horns were very popular, and so it worked really well for that band and the Falcons, because I had Wilbur. He played saxophone. He was a great saxophone player. Really nice thing about playing with Wilbur, we were coming from two different places. I wanted to be like Junior Walker, and I felt that was what the Falcons needed. He saw it in a different way. He saw it. He's playing, or his role is to play good solos and good parts. So he played good parts. He played solos in a certain way, and I played, and I always have played for the song. And I think that's probably why then I over the years been recognised as a slightly better saxophone than I am saxophone player, because I think I played on songs that were really big hits and played a melody inside the melody. So I didn't treat it like a solo, and that's how pretty much I find that the saxophone attractive for me on that level. So it's still a big part of me.
The Falcons were an amazing live act, and it's probably where you shone most in a live situation. How difficult was it to replicate that feel in the studio with that band?
It was sort of impossible, really. It was kind of like the Falcons, especially. It was like putting on your lab coat and walking into a studio and trying to recreate. Everything was under the microscope, and instead of just letting it go and letting it simmer, we weren't smart enough to do it, and we had producers and people wanting things to move on for the next thing, get the next song going. Well, that's how you play it, but in actual fact, how we play it. So we kind of lost what we didn't lose it. We just didn't know how to capture, how to play, and know when the take was the take, and we wanted it to be perfect. And what's really great about records is that the really great ones aren't perfect, and that's what makes you want to listen to something again and again. You can have really, beautiful records, but normally they're normally involved in a process. We didn't understand it, and I used to, for those first few records, I thought we were just kind of crap, and just couldn't. We had good songs, good energy, but it wasn't coming off the page. It was sort of, if I can say, sort of one-dimensional or something. It was just flatlining, and I think I wasn't very good in the studio. I know that, but I think it would have been better for me because I was more punk than anything else. I was just kind of this rough piece of rough trade, that could bounce off the wall. I didn't have any finesse. I just went in there and I could sing a bit, but I didn't even know. I didn't know how to, if it wasn't working, how to fix it. And I think that was kind of, and so we would do the vocal, say, okay, we've got 20 tracks. Let's slave the machine. We've got 20 tracks. You can sing the song 20 times, and then I'll cut it up. And you can't sing a song 20 times. You just can't make it any different. And then when we finally got to fortunate enough to do Screaming Targets, I did have some songs. I did have The Shape I'm In, Hit and Run, and a few other songs, and that I thought were pretty good, but naive, but pretty good in a naive way because we had so much energy behind it. But we had this guy, Peter Soller, who came over from England to produce a sports record. We turned out to be really great friends. This is during the recording, and he kind of showed us how to do it. He showed us how to get the best out of really great playing, or the best out of the weakest link in a track. And I thought that was that just kind of opened up my whole understanding, and all of a sudden those records, really good records, I'm not going to crucify myself, but I think the ideas were good. We had strong ideas. The songs could have been a little bit better, from my point of view. I was just starting to write songs. I was just happy to finish a song. It's finished. I've got 2 verses and a bridge and a chorus. Let's just go. Nobody's going to listen to it anyway. Let's just do it. And so, making that record in, like 11 days or something, and we got it back from England. He mastered it in England, and hearing it on the radio was just sensational because it just sounded big and strong, and it had this other level to the sound of the record. It wasn't flatlining. It wasn't sort of just this kind of flat sound. It had a lot of body, and that was kind of an interesting time. We kind of learned how to do that, and the only thing that we didn't sort of have was, we had those songs, and the next record he did, and that was kind of had the same values, but the songs weren't quite as good, because at the end of the day, it's kind of all about the song. And but he was able to show us how to be the best we could be.
I read you quoted as saying you only saw about 15,000 of more than $1 million that the Falcons made in its final year. Do you know where the rest of it went, and how disillusioned did that leave you with the industry at that time?
Look, I was young enough to sort of weather it. I didn't think too much about it. I had a young family. I was working in I just got a job. I just thought, well, that was a good ride. I didn't even, you wouldn't have said, I don't think that phrase would have happened then, but I just said, went and got a job. I didn't like the idea of a job. I had a mortgage to pay. In those days, houses weren't that expensive, so, and guitars were cheap and saxophones were cheap, so we were happy. I was happy I was happy, and I never thought. I was maybe still too naive to be bitter. What was I bitter about? It's kind of. I got to tour the world. I got to do stuff that I never thought I'd ever do. I wasn't sort of really. I wasn't thinking that way. I was happy to sort of get to the market at 5:30 in the morning and come home with a box of vegetables. That was kind of, and we made our own fun. We just had fun. We didn't need sort of money, you need money, but we didn't need lots of it. And it was kind of, that was okay. It was, if it was going to end there. I mean, there was no. You got to remember those days. There was no reunions. If you finished, you finished, and you could just kind of just shut it all down. And that's what a lot of bands did. They broke up well before their time. The reasons the Falcons broke up, I think, is we couldn't see how we could go any further, and I remember doing Brown Eyed Girl with the Falcons. I said, I've got. Oh no, that was a reunion. I'd already had the Black Sorrows. I remember. No, sorry. But if I had Brown Eyed Girl that cover song, band's cover. If I did that, I think the Falcons would have made a massive hit out of that.
Yeah.
Because basically they played on it and it was a big hit, but it was an underground hit, but it got the Black Sorrow somewhere. It was that song, that got the Sorrows somewhere, took us somewhere that, and that album that took us away from just being a band that works in a cafe, So those things were, if we could have just hung in a little bit longer. I mean, we were just so depressed. We had this really great band, knew how to play, knew how to make a record, but didn't have a song. I was writing songs, but I didn't have the song. I didn't have. Record companies were looking for another shape I'm in, and I was determined not to do it. But I wanted to do this other thing, and then so the band broke up. I just formed, and I had a hit. The Falcons couldn't have done Taxi Mary. I mean, they couldn't have done Taxi Mary. So even though Jojo Zep, I kept the name and did the Char Band,
Yeah.
I did have the song, but I didn't have the song for them. I was, they were an R&B band, and I was developing what I was trying to do. So it was a funny time, but I really think if I had just that cover, it might have made the difference, for that band, because we only, as I said, we only had 4 or 5 years, and we had, and in those days they only give you one single, and you have to make another album. We had 2 singles off that, Shape On and Hit and Run, and both big songs. We had the Honey Dripper, we had all the Security, we had all these really big live songs. All we had to do was just weather the storm, but the music scene was changing somewhat too.
Talking about the birth of the Black Sorrows and those early albums, it was like you had your own little cottage industry there going in those early days. Was that a liberating kind of experience, doing it that way?
Well, it's just, once again, it's kind of the unknown, blind faith. You meet some guy who says, I can make T-shirts. So you say, if you can make T-shirts, can you silk screen a cover? Yeah. So why not? And so you do this stuff, stuff that you never thought of doing. I remember playing our very first show, and they're all covers, nothing. I just wanted to do some kind of, wasn't even Zydeco music really. It was kind of using the elements of Zydeco, and I just picked a whole bunch of songs that I knew. So it was, and a few songs that I didn't know. Picked a bunch of guys that were kind of, half of them were really foreign to me, So I'm going to make this as different as I can make it. And, having a clarinet player, sax player, trumpet player, violin player, piano, accordion player, that was your horn section, that no one was doing that at the time, even Mellencamp wasn't doing that, He used that to a much greater effect than I did, but pretty much the same instrumentation, mandolins and all the small instruments, and using things like that, piano, accordion, violin, saxophones as a horn section, which is sort of a New Orleans French kind of thing. We just I said, well, so we made the record in a day. So we finished the whole thing in a day. We pressed everything, got it pressed. We did the screen printing, sold it in funny places. All of a sudden you got someone plays it on the radio. Someone, that world. Someone plays it, someone likes it, all of a sudden we're getting work. All of a sudden people are talking about something that you think, oh, well, it's just, this record was a bit it was rough. There were tracks on that we never even listened back to. Just said, okay. I remember Grow Before I Grow Too Old. I never listened back to it. That was just kind of one take, boom, that was it. We might have done a couple of songs. We were finished by 6 o'clock at night. And this is the sort of stuff you do. You hear about someone, oh, we've got this new digital machine, we want someone to try it out. You can have AAV, which was like a $4,000 studio. Well, it mightn't have been that much then. It might have been $2,500 or something. So you can have it for $600. Okay, with an engineer. Okay, you don't get to keep the tape though. Well, that was the biggest mistake I made. I don't own the tape, and they went over the tape. Which I didn't care. I was just documenting this little band. So to me, that was kind of exciting. I listened to that record, and I don't care if it's out of tune. I don't care if I'm singing a little bit out of tune, because it's just the way that it came out.
Yeah.
And I don't care if it's kind of speeds up. I think people just liked it. It was charming enough to be just that, and interesting enough to say, well, there's a new thing with using the old thing. And it has a little twist to it. It's kind of cute. Piano accordion was the ugliest instrument in the universe. Now it's become, it covers your stomach. Of things like that, and the violin. We used to just kind of walk around. People used to put money in it. I used to be at the back, singing behind and walking around with the hat. Just put in a couple of dollars, And I think that was just charming, and it was fun. I didn't have any grand plans. I didn't have any ideas. I just wanted to be in a band that wanted to play music and have fun. And that's kind of pretty much where I'm at anyway. But of course, the more successful you become, the more pressure one puts on oneself.
Talk about your songwriting partnership with Nick Smith. Is that something that clicked right away? And has the procedure of songwriting between the two of you changed over the years?
Well, yeah, it has changed. Pretty much. Like he came over, and one day I met him at AAV. Really, he was doing something with the Kevins, I think, or within the band. And I just said, oh, look, do you want to get together and do it? He's a very charming character, Nick, and very engaging. And he just came around to my house one day, and, we were writing songs for an album, for a solo album. And we wrote some really good songs too. The record company were, Mushroom at the time, were pretty wanted to do just the one single, and I was an pretty angry young man then, saying, well, if you don't want to sing, just let me go, using that sort of logic. And I said, why don't we just write some songs for the Black Sorrows, So pretty much the first song we wrote was Country Girls, and I thought, wow, this is a good song. This is a good song. And I think that I've got a vehicle. That's the first time I thought I had a vehicle for something new. We used to just sit around and do that together in those days. So now we don't do that. We hardly do that now. We just kind of, I give him stuff, he gives me back stuff, I give him stuff. He was over last night, we didn't have any stuff, we just talked about death. But and just records really, songs, and he's got about 7 or 8 songs. He's behind me by about 7 or 8 songs, and I try to encourage him to sort of finish them or help finish them so I can move on. I try not to give him more than, if I give him more than 7 songs to work on, he gets a bit confused. So, we work really quite nicely together. You know, if we don't have anything, we just have fun. It's hanging out, and I I really appreciate that, and I cherish it really, because it's more than the music is the thing that brought us together, and the fact that we like each other, and we still do, and we can still have a laugh and in our own way about whatever it is that we're dealing with, and so the dynamic changed a little bit, and we've got our own roles, and I think that it works pretty well.
Are you aware of what vehicle you're writing for when you do sit down to write a song? Do you know if it's going to be for a Black Sorrows project or a Bakelite Radio, or does that
No,
become
not really. Well, strangely enough, Crooked Little Thoughts was a mixture of all those things. I thought I'd be writing. It started off, I thought would be pretty much I described it as a Dust Bowl record, but a sort of Bakelite Radio, and but I knew I wanted to do a Sorrows record, so all of a sudden we had a whole bunch of songs for both projects. So I thought, I'll just make two records, and I'll put Bakelite Radio on one side and Black Sorrows on the other side. And, nobody's asking me to do this. I'm just doing it because I want to do it. And you write something. Normally, if you haven't got a vehicle for it, you stop. You say, well, there's no reason to do it, unless you want to do it. So I still want to do it. So the Crooked Little Thoughts took on it took on its own kind of life, and ended up being a 3-record set with an art book and all these different things. But and I felt that the songs actually worked pretty well within themselves. So on some levels, what there are some songs that belong in that camp, and then there are songs that just cross over, and there are just songs that you like and you don't want to let go.
I was interested to read you say you haven't always enjoyed the Sorrows. How do you work yourself out of a feeling like that? Is that where the side projects like the Revelators and Bakelite Radio, is that where they've been particularly helpful to you to keep things fresh when you return to the Sorrows?
Yes and no. I think the hard thing about success, there's success on many different levels. The hard thing about being successful is that people expect certain things and are too scared to move away from that from you, and so you end up, regardless of how good your new material may be, it's hard, unless your new material becomes really popular, to cut through, and therefore you end up being this band that just it's like a vinyl record that it's starting to scratch, and it's got surface noise, and you're finding it hard to get out of that situation. Regardless of what you do, you play Chain to the Wheel or Harley and Rose, and that crucifies everything else that you try to do. So you feel like you just kind of dig in a bigger hole, or you're really in this big, 5 foot of mud that you're trying to walk through, and no one's giving you that opportunity to. No one's really looking at what you're doing anymore. They just kind of see you in that light. Whereas the Revelators, then it has a life of its own, so you can start again, and that's kind of basically what I've done every time. For me, once again, that reached a point where as much as I love the Revelations. In fact, we just having a reunion and doing a few gigs together, and it's been a lot of fun because you kind of revisit not only the songs, but you have an opportunity to do some new songs, which we've done, but also you have that rapport with the people that you play with in that world. You know them in other places, but in that world, you're that. And the weakest link is still the weakest link, and all the things that go with the band, And for me, that was pretty good because I was able to do that. And Bakelite Radio was an extension of that. It meant that I could do things on my own without the Revelators. I could do things that the Revelators perhaps didn't want to do or couldn't see or didn't have the same vision for, or I had a different vision for that. And that, once again, creates the juices to flow a little bit more and gives you an opportunity to see things again and go back to things that you like. I'm pretty much love the bad end of jazz, which is the blues, and I like pop music and like all the it's a wide net, and she's going off.
That's okay.
And I like that, and it just gave me an opportunity to do that. I never thought that I'd do. We're just about to record another album, but I just do it because I've got the song to do it, and I feel that they once again, like I said earlier, if you write them, you want to give them a home, and that's what we're doing. So that's kind of how those things work for me, but. I'll see if I can move a little bit.
No, actually, Joe, if I'm just about to wrap it up anyway, if you like.
Okay.
So, yeah.
No worries.
Thank you so much for your time and being generous with your time today. We've timed it really well. I think it might be time to get back to domestic duties there.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks very much.
Appreciate your time and travel. Thanks a lot,
No
Joe.
worries. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.